So hello to everyone and welcome to the SEtalks number 6. So it's already the 6th Thursday that we are speaking about social entrepreneurship. So thank you again for being with us today. My name is Snežana Andrić and I want to welcome you on behalf of Young Ambassadors from Niš in Serbia. We are constantly working on the developing of the capacity of young people and helping them in changing their communities. So these SEtalks webinars are part of our project, which we are doing together with Social Entrepreneurship Observatory from North Macedonia, thanks to the support of Swedish Institute and Lund University. So every Thursday, we are speaking about different parts of social entrepreneurship and social economy. So today we are so happy to speak about the innovation in social entrepreneurship. And now I'm giving the floor to my colleague Stefan from Social Entrepreneurship Observatory from Macedonia to say hello as
well. Hi everyone, thank you for having the time to pitch in on this webinar. We have great speakers here today. I'm the Executive Director of the Social Entrepreneurship Observatory based in Skopje. We are working on consultancies, technical support, mentoring, well, basically capacity building, research and advocacy, and consulting for social enterprises and entrepreneurs. I would not take a lot of time explaining what we do and introducing myself, because we have 4 speakers here and we have a lot to talk about in the next hour and a half.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stefan, very much. And as I mentioned before, our topic today is innovation in social entrepreneurship. And we are having great speakers today with us who will share their knowledge. So I'm going to invite them all. So firstly, here today with us, we have Ester Barinaga. She's the professor of social entrepreneurship from the Lund University in Sweden. Also with us is Kate Ipel. He's the CEO from the Spring Activator from Canada. Alexandra Boeva, Emergency Battle Manager of Red Cross from North Macedonia, and Alexander Stamenkovic, co-founder of Just Start from Serbia. So hello to all of you and welcome to the SEtalks. It is really great to have you all here. And at the beginning, I would really like to invite everyone who are listening us here and also on Facebook pages that you can ask questions for all the speakers during the whole webinar. So please, all the comments and questions, please share with us. So I think that the best way to start this discussion is to present all our speakers today. So I would really now want to invite all of you to present us shortly on some current initiatives that you are working at the moment. So Esther, maybe we can start with you.
Okay. Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it is a pleasure having you here.
Esther, can you tell us what you do with your students and what your activities are in social entrepreneurship per se?
So I do teach on social entrepreneurship, but I am also a social entrepreneur myself. So I've started organizations working with marginalized areas of Swedish cities, for instance. And I'm also working with introducing community currencies in Kenya, in Kisumu, the 3rd largest city in Kenya, and working with mobilizing citizens also in Malmö, the city where I live here in Sweden, to introduce a community currency. So that's my practical aspect. But then I work with students also by mobilizing their energies and their imaginations, both to understand a challenge and then be able to design a solution and form an organization to address that particular challenge. Yeah.
Excellent. Quite a few activities all around the globe.
I love it. I truly love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, very much. So, Kate, welcome to the SEtalks. So, can we hear more about your initiatives and the work that you are doing at the moment?
Absolutely. Esther, very inspiring. It's great to be able to follow you So hi, everyone. I'm Keith, and I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. And so I'm looking forward to spending this next hour and a bit with you. And so I co-found and lead Spring. Spring is an organization that changes the world through innovation. And so we work with impact entrepreneurs, impact investors, and ecosystems to change the world for the better. We tend to work with entrepreneurs from idea to about 2 million in annual revenue. So incubation, acceleration, and investment readiness. We work with entrepreneurs to train them, to capacity build them, to bring them together, and to introduce them to deals. And we also work in ecosystems, so governments, foundations, and donors to help them build impact innovation ecosystems in their communities. We've had the good fortune of working in over 45 communities around the world. I've had the very good fortune of being in the Western Balkans several times over the last 4 years. I was in Sarajevo about 4 weeks before the world locked down, so I was very close to being in Sarajevo for a little while, actually. Nevertheless, I'm looking forward to coming back and looking forward to spending this session with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is really a pleasure having you here. So, Alexandra, so we have Alexandra and Alexander, so it will be maybe confusing when we are invited. So, Alexandra Boeva, welcome to the SEtalks. So, can we hear more about your work?
Yeah. Hello. Thank you for having me here today. It's a real pleasure sharing with you the experiences and what we do at the moment. So what is the latest that is going on within the Red Cross is that we are about to launch the 4th social enterprise within the City Red Cross of Skopje. That is the emergency button service that actually allows users to live safely in the comfort of their home 24/7. The emergency button service, it is something that is already existing, and we will be using already existing technologies. So not that it is something so innovative, and not that is a technology that we have innovated. In many other countries, it is existing for longer than 20 or even 30 years. In Switzerland, this service is present. But in our country, this is a new service. It is something that will be introduced for the first time. And at the moment, we are in the last phase of preparation of this service. And we hopefully will be able to introduce this to clients in mid-June. The next step for this service is introducing the medical transport as an additional service to the emergency button. And we are doing this with the support of the Redpreneur program, which is a program of the Austrian Red Cross that actually supports social innovations. And on the long run, we plan on incorporation the emergency button service in the social and healthcare system in the country, with the possibility for it to be available through the social and health insurance. We had this similar thing going on with our previous social enterprise, which is the Nega Center. It is a social enterprise that actually is for home-based care services. For 3 years up to now, we were working for commercial clients. And finally, from this year, we were able to work as part of the social system in the country. So that is our goal also for the emergency button service.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alexander, really for the inspiring story. So, Alexander, can we hear more about your initiatives and what you are doing at the moment?
Okay, thank you, Snežana. Thank you, Stefan, for the opportunity to participate in this SEtalks. My name is Alexander. In generally, I'm an environmental protection engineer, but I work in the fields of the project management, innovation, and digitalization. With my colleague Branko, we established one small consulting company which provides different kind of services in the fields of consulting for the small business and business development. And we support them to get funds from different funds. Also, we work on the principles of the solidary economy, and that means that we invest our profit in the community project or our own project with the predictable social impact in our community, in general in community. At the moment, we have our 2 digital products in our portfolio. Moja Kancelaria, my office, is the web application that supports communication and business of the small and medium enterprises. And we have the community-based application, City and Me. We will speak about them in the next questions of this event.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Alexander. We have a variety here. So business developers, startup developers, consultancies, social entrepreneurs, and professor for social entrepreneurship. So we have a variety of panelists here, and that's excellent. Without further ado, I would start with Esther. Esther, can you tell us what consequences social innovation has and how we think and organize social entrepreneurship? So basically, when you're explaining about all this, can you share some good practices from Sweden as well?
Oh, that okay. Okay,
Let's start at the beginning.
Exactly. I actually start telling about a particular understanding of social entrepreneurship that is very common in the Scandinavian countries, but that is sometimes a bit different in other countries, and more particularly in the States and on the other side of the Atlantic. And I'm starting there because some of my comments may be better understood if you understand the Swedish or the Scandinavian perspective. In the literature on social entrepreneurship, very often, social entrepreneurship is about using the market logic or business models or business practices to solve social or environmental challenges. In the Scandinavian perspective, that is a contradiction in terms, because many, and particularly now, many of the social and environmental challenges that we're facing, many of our social entrepreneurs say, those challenges are coming from the market itself and from the traditional way that businesses have been organized and for traditional mainstream business models and all that stuff. So for these social innovators, actually, some of them even reject the term social entrepreneurship because entrepreneurship is so tightly connected with market logics and business models and all that stuff. And they say, we cannot build on the market to transform a society which the market ruined. Okay, so they redefine the whole idea of social entrepreneurship and go back to the root of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship comes from the French entreprendre, which means set in motion, organize, activate, mobilize, right? Is set in motion. And so social entrepreneurship here is seen as bottom up. So it's not state funded, it's not business funded, it's bottom up, grassroots, if you want, bottom up efforts to organize for social change. Okay, so social change is really what focuses and what, all these entrepreneurs. Yes. So having said that, then the practices of these entrepreneurs differ in the sense that they're not trying to develop a business model, that they're not becoming financially and sustainable by themselves, but what they're trying to do is to mobilize from the bottom up and organize from the bottom up to actually do the social change that they want to see happen. Instead of asking others like nonprofit organizations or traditional social movements would do, they do it themselves. And instead of building a business model that is profitable, they reject that. So it's a little bit different in that sense.
Thank you, Esther. I've witnessed that firsthand. I've done my study visit in Sweden in the Skåne region for my PhD. So I was at Malmö University for my research stay.
Yeah.
So I've seen in Kristianstad, in Lund, in Malmö, and the whole region, basically how it works. With social entrepreneurship, although it was 2 years ago, and I've heard from the professors there that now things are changing. Like the focus is changing from social entrepreneurs to basically the ecosystem and the intermediaries, the support organizations.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Keith, you're next in line. I'm just kidding, right? Can you tell us how can we change the world of entrepreneurship with innovation?
Well, it's an interesting question because in many respects, entrepreneurship is innovation. And so the important part, I think, in many respects is how do we change it for the better? And I think one thing that I always have seen is whenever I give talks and whenever I engage with people, I always ask the question, you know, how many people here want to make the world a better place, or do you want to make the world a better place? And almost every human being says yes. You know, every human being says, I would love to make the world a better place, and better for, you know, the community that they live in, better for the country that they live in, better for the region, and ultimately the world. And so the important part, though, is to show them how, right? How do I think is the hardest question for any entrepreneur to answer, right? How do I prove my idea is any good? How do I launch my business? How do I do digital marketing? How do I raise money for my venture? Right? These are all the how do I questions that entrepreneurs face. And so I think for us in the world of impact, what we want to do is help them answer the question, how do I do my venture and make the world a better place at the same time? Right? That's the inherent piece. And I think a critical part of that is to, you know, provide great training and support. I think the second one is to ensure that there is values aligned capital or investment that is available to support them. And then I think the other piece too is we as an impact community, we need to be inclusive. Sometimes, you know, we as impact entrepreneurs ourselves, we try and achieve a certain level of impact, and it's not uncommon for people to say, oh, well, if you're doing this less amount of impact, you're not impact. And that's not true, because impact is not, it's not vertical, it's horizontal, it's a journey, right? And so if we're here and we see somebody over here, an entrepreneur saying, hey, I'd love to make the world a better place, we say, great, welcome, let's do this together. And so I think those are really, really critical pieces. But I would say giving entrepreneurs tools and training up front, making sure there is supportive investment, which is values aligned, impact capital, right? And then I think the third thing is to be inclusive and to allow people to walk this journey and find their impact over time. So that would be my suggestions.
Thank you, Keith. An excellent point. In many countries, those who are newcomers have difficulties in entering the market or entering the field because they're newcomers, of course, and they do not have the experience and the knowledge to basically navigate through the whole ecosystem of entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. So somebody needs to pick them up and dust them off and say, okay, now you can continue, go on and do your thing, and we can help you.
Totally agree. And what's really important is that all of us have the internet. And all of us can use Google. So we can Google answers to questions like, how do I launch a startup? Or how do I do this? Or how do I do that? But the challenge is also it is Google, which means that there's too much information. And so our goal as ecosystem players is to help them curate, right? So what is the right information at the right time? And this is where, you know, programs like incubation programs and acceleration programs can be hugely beneficial to a new entrepreneur. And so I always recommend to new entrepreneurs that if you are a new entrepreneur and you want to do this for the first time, ask for help. Seek those programs, because what it will do is it will do a couple of things. One is it saves you time. Second, it saves your money. Right? Because you're faster to validate your idea. If your idea ends up not being a great idea, you can stop it quickly and then move on to the next idea. And if it is a good idea, you can move quickly and in a very cost-efficient way to launch. And that's a really powerful thing to do. One of the best entrepreneurs I ever worked with, she is a marine biologist by trade. No education in business, no education in technology, right? And so she had an idea which was an entrepreneurial idea that would also remove plastic waste from the ocean, but had never been a business person before. She got help through education, and her total cost to launch was 50 euros. That was her total cost. because she was able to validate her idea and prove things all in a very, obviously time and cost efficient way. And so I think it's a real inspiration to anybody out there who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur for the first time.
Yeah, it's a great advice, because we have an ocean of information out there, and not every information is relevant. There is an anecdote for this, and in these pandemic times, it says, when you Google a disease, the first information that comes in is the one with the best SEO. So it's not the most relevant information, but is the one that has better marketing, right? So it doesn't mean that it's relevant enough. So thank you for that. And of course, we need to move from competitors to partnerships, right? Thank you for that. Okay, Alexandra, can you tell us how to innovate organization-wise? Because you said a lot of these innovations in the Red Cross, they are great examples. Can you tell us how to innovate organization-wise?
Yeah, I can share some ideas here. Since I think that innovation is a real difference maker and a foundation for growth. And regarding that, I think that one of the most important things for an organization is to build that culture of innovation. In my opinion, there are few baselines to start and to do this process wisely. For example, every innovative organization should embrace a multi-phased approach to innovation. And I think that should start at the bottom. Because I don't think that every idea happens in some top management brainstorming sessions. I believe that great ideas and problem-solving ideas can come from any team member, any participant in the organization, and that I think that every idea here should be respected. I personally have a lot of good examples within the social enterprises that we are running regarding that. For example, within the social enterprise Kopcha, which is a second-hand shop, we have also work integration workshops. And within the workshop for sewing, one of the enrolled participants came up with the idea of using the old donated clothes, actually the materials from the donated clothes, to create an eco-friendly shopping bags. And to be honest, that idea did not bring us more profit. But it helped us to raise the awareness how to protect the environment and how every member of the local community can participate in it. Up until now, every customer in our shop gets discount if he uses eco-friendly bag while shopping. And I think that that's what social entrepreneurship is actually about. I think that this way we empower the employees to think independently and to think of new creative ways to solve existing problems. Also, I think that something that is also important is not to be afraid to take action and not to be afraid of failing. I think that if you're never failing, chances are you're not innovating much. Failure is inevitable when you're fostering a culture of innovation. And I think that actually that is part of the challenge. Also, last but not least, since our newest venture is connected to technology, I think that the technology is forefront of innovation, and the use of new technology is allowing innovation to become more adaptive, more user-friendly, and more efficient. And I think that the leaders and the future social entrepreneurs should not only find new ways to innovate, but also to find new ways to harness the power of the people around them, and also inside their organizations to find new and improved ways to build the social impact.
Thank you, Alexandra. Very inspiring, basically, and I agree that fostering a culture of innovation in an organization is a whole different animal, let's say, because it's a whole different story. And I got a great idea from you and from Keith, who is writing in chat that organizational culture in social enterprises should be for our next webinar as well as a subject. It's very interesting, and there are a lot of strategies out there. Thank you for that. And now we will come to Alexander. Alexander, can you tell us how can we change and improve our community with innovation? What is the role of your company and what you're doing?
Thank you for this question. In general, innovations is very important for all of us because they give us new way, new tools, new services, how to do something better. And that is very important for the community. When we started to think about City and Me, we had one sentence in our heads that the large number of small everyday activities can give us a huge positive impact on environment in general in our community. So one model of the City and Me application is the mechanism which encourage green activities of citizens, such as cycling, recycling, measure them, and reward the green activities of the citizens. So if, for example, if you ride a bike for 15 kilometers in the urban area of the city of Niš, you will get 2 theater tickets for you and your partners, your friends, to exchange in the city theater. So we use some kind of rewarding to give a positive impact on the environment through the activities of citizens. In the long term, we believe that we can change some behaviors of the people to do green activities every day as usual activities. So as said, in the end, I think that on this way we can provide a great positive impact on the local community in the future through the small activities, to the small changes of the everyday activities of the people.
Thank you, Alexander. What a great way to motivate and empower people to care more about the ecology and about the environment, and afterwards they get a reward. So it's an excellent model. Thank you all for this session, and Snezhana, can you continue?
Yeah, we can go on. So maybe we can go again with Esther. So while we were preparing this webinar, you mentioned these community currencies, and also in the beginning of the webinar, you also mentioned this. So maybe it will be good to know more about it and why are they important for the sustainable future, as you said. You are muted. Yeah.
So community currencies are a tool for communities or a variety of actors to organize themselves and give funding to themselves, actually. And they look very different depending on what kind of objectives they have, on what kind of actors are involved, and the like. I can give an example of how one works so that you understand what they are. So for instance, in Lisbon, waste collection, I meet the director of one of the municipalities within Lisbon, one of the districts, in 2017. And in Portugal, like many other European countries at the time, had been deep in a economic crisis since the 2008, and we've seen the welfare state retrench and local budgets, public budgets, retrench. So there's a lack of funding in general. And yet he's very concerned because residents are not recycling their waste, and he feels his district looks dirty, but he doesn't have any budget. So he comes to the idea, or he comes to the notion of community currency. What he does is that he prints himself, he prints liso, a kind of community currency, which is called liso, which means waste in Portuguese, and decides to pay residents that bring their waste sorted to central collection points that are located all around the district, pays with this currency. and the residents can go to local businesses and buy their tomatoes or buy their bread with the local leases, and then the businesses can trade among themselves and further pay the local taxes. Within 3 months, there is no waste in the district. Thanks to the community currency, they've organized, they managed to organize community in a way that it's beneficial for the whole. So this is a particular community currency where a local actor, very much at the grassroots level, because at the municipal, it's not even the city, has been involved. But citizens are taking these tools as well to organize themselves for building more inclusive cities towards refugees and immigrants, for activating urban gardens, for whatever it is. So this is really what community currencies is. And I've been doing research on them for the last 5-6 years, and they are just booming. There are literally hundreds of them in Spain alone, and thousands of them in Europe. I mean, there are very many. So it's a tool, and it's not. Some of them use crypto and blockchain technology. Many of them don't. So it's not to be equalized or to be. Don't think about cryptocurrencies when you think about community currencies, because the technology is not what makes them. It's actually the actors organizing behind.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that we can hear now that you have a lot in common with the city and me application that Alexander already presented. So yeah, actually, at the end, all the innovation are mostly engaged in these environmental issues, because at the end, they are the thing that citizens really are bothering the most, and they want to have like the good and clear air and clear community. So yeah, it is really great that this initiative is also blooming in the whole Europe, and yeah, that there are similar initiatives on the all levels. So yeah, great. This is really great example. And Kate, so we can go again to you, and on your daily basis, you're working with a lot of change makers, with a lot of new initiatives, and people from the all ages that are wanted to improve their businesses. So our webinars are mainly dedicated to the young people, but maybe to know more from you how you are empowering change makers and how you are helping them to make an impact business.
So thank you for asking that question. As you said, we've had the good fortune of working with a wide range of change makers around the world. And there's a couple things to know for those people who are listening, who are youth, and that is that there are some pretty incredible opportunities out there. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, now is the time. Like you just have so much freedom. Just to give everybody some context, I was coaching an entrepreneur yesterday from Australia, and he's raising money. He's raising $3 million. And he just looked at me about 15 minutes into the call, and he's like, Keith, I'm 47. I so wish I had done this when I was 27. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Because there's just so much to be said for energy and vision and passion and optimism. So the reason I'm sharing that is because we have had the good fortune of working with youth on a few different fronts. One is with high school age students, so age 15 to 18 years of age, with junior achievement in Canada, to introduce them to the topic of entrepreneurship. So this entrepreneur and innovation culture that Alexandra was referring to. And I think that's so critical in a community is to start to talk about it when people are in high school. And then we also just recently actually finished a program where we were working with Junior Achievement Albania on a youth accelerator and incubator. And so it was an opportunity to have youth be involved. And so what I would say is that the difference between youth and other people around innovation, aside from the energy and the enthusiasm and the optimism, is that there's that kind of overwhelming sense of, where do I get started? What if I make a mistake? There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear. And so what Alexander was talking about failing fast, that term failing fast actually comes from the technology world. It comes from Silicon Valley. And what's interesting is that in my old age, I'll say, that what I've learned is that failing fast is maybe an outdated term. And I think the term is actually learning fast, because I think failing is either when you go bankrupt or when you actually don't even try in the first place. And so I think, you know, one of the inspiring pieces for me is to help young people to actually realize that when you create an idea and you test it, and it doesn't work, that's learning, right? And then you learn towards and you fall forward to success. And so one example I'll give is Elaine. Elaine is an incredible entrepreneur that I know, and when she came to me, she had an idea, and then we worked with her to validate the idea, and we proved nobody wanted the idea. It was a terrible idea. And so then she was like, oh, okay, great, like I'll move on. And then she tested her next idea. Her next idea, also not good. Her third idea was an idea to teach youth aged 8 to 12 about marine biology. So it was like biology 101 for young, like kids. But the underlying purpose of teaching them at that age was to teach them about plastic waste in the ocean, and how what we do with like our candy wrappers and everything else impacts the sea life. It impacts the oceans. And in 1 year, she trained 8,000 students in a city of 500,000. And at the end of year 2, she was Canada's representative to the UN G20 for ocean health. And she was a solo entrepreneur, right? So I think for me, that's a really good example of how we drive it. So I think the benefit that we have at Spring, working, for example, in this introduction to entrepreneurship with high school students and working in this incubator accelerator program with Junior Achievement Albania, is you take this energy and enthusiasm and optimism that youth have, and you help them funnel it into focus, give them the tools that they need. And then I think from there, help them to embrace that, you know, finding out that your idea is no good, it's just learning. You know, there's no failure in that. There's just that's just learning, right? Failure is not trying. Failure is standing at the door and not opening it. And so I think that that's really critical. So that gives you 2 examples of what we've done, and I think what we've learned in working at time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kit. I think that you made a really couple of really good messages for all the young people that are maybe listening us now, and because really we want to encourage them with all this webinar to think about entrepreneurship. But I think really it's great to hear how they can never stop trying and never stop believing in their ideas, and yeah, always to at least try, then they will see what will happen in the end. So thank you very much for these inspirational stories. So Alexandra, we are again going to you, and you mentioned a couple of things that you are now doing in the organization, but maybe can you share with us now some latest innovation, more information about it, and how your organization is working related to the social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the latest innovation is actually the emergency button service that came up as an idea because we already have the social enterprise for home help services. Unfortunately, in the state, there were lacking of home help services within the social system in the country. So the Red Cross actually had to implement this as a social enterprise. So we are proud that we did it, but I'm not saying this proudly because home help services should not be social enterprises. I think that they should be part of the system, but the main thing is that the previous 3 years we were advocating a lot about it, and I think that Stefan knows he was part of the process, and I think that after a long time of advocating through our social enterprise, we somehow managed to push things and to make this part of the system. Of course, not alone, but I think that we somehow pushed things a little bit harder in order to make these changes. As I already mentioned, the latest thing that we are working on is the implementation of the 24/7 emergency button service. For our country, it is very innovative because we do not have it. We do not have it as a service. I believe that Esther and Kate can say more about in their countries that probably that is part of their maybe social or health system. But for our country, unfortunately, it is something new, something innovative. And I'm aware that we will be facing challenges related to institutional barriers that innovators face when wanting to deploy new technologies and processes. Also, the bureaucratic fences here that are sometimes required to get things approved in order to make these changes. But we don't give up. The social impact is our driving force and main motivation. So I hope that we would succeed in this.
Yeah, great, and great for the initiative. So, Stefan, you wanted to add something to the Alexandra?
Yes, I think that if one thing that we've learned during these troubled times is that the social and economic systems have failed us, and many people have left behind. We're left behind. So, in order to do this, some may innovate and come up with the idea of emergency button service, right, as a new service in the world, and some will adopt it in the countries, as we do in Macedonia, in Skopje particularly. So I think that innovation comes in all forms. So it may not be for you to be the one that we will innovate or think of the service or the product, but you can bring it home and make it innovation in domestically, let's say. So I think that what Alexandra and the Red Cross are doing, and because I was in the beginning, I was part of the research team that was doing this, I think that it showed fantastic results because the people need such innovations that will help them live, well, basically it will improve their quality of life. They will feel free and more secure to do whatever they like to do. So I think that to add just one more sentence to what Alexandra said, I think that not every social service should be part of the system. It can be better led by organizations such as the Red Cross or a humanitarian organization or NGO or a company, a social enterprise, because it will be more focused and they will look at the quality and they will look how to improve it all the time, as you do. Thanks.
Thank you, Stefan. And yeah, Alexandra also said, but I think that we were listening to this for all previous webinars, that at the end, it is the most important support from all the stakeholders to understand the situation and support and help in all the matters. So Alexander, we are now going to you, and maybe a question for you would be, are the stakeholders ready for the innovations? So are they aware of the importance of innovation, how we can encourage them? How was your path with the City and Me application?
Thanks, Nežana, for this question. In generally, the stakeholders are, from our perspective, is very important for development of social community-based innovations. For example, where we started to develop our City and Me application, we organized discussion on 2 roundtables with city representatives, representatives of the university, NGOs, government of Serbia, UNDP, and USAID. Also, we organized some workshops from the experts from the Slovenia and Croatia to share their experience with local stakeholders here in Niš in the topic of the City and Me application. After that, we also signed the protocols with the key stakeholders, public enterprise, mediana, and paper service, waste management and recycling companies who will collect our waste through the application, measure and verify and reward users who exchange the waste for the tokens in the recycling collection service here in Niš. Also, we find a great partner in the association of the buildings managers. They give us first 10,000 users of the application in the buildings which they manage. Also, they give us test environment for the application in their buildings. In the end, we also discuss with the citizens. We found 10 residential buildings, go to the door, from door to door and speak with the citizens. All of this give us opportunity, give us help to develop the solution based on the needs of the community, of the customers in the end, when we have a finished application.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Alexandra. I think that you really made a great point here. Why is it important to gather all the stakeholders, but also to include the citizens? Because at the end, it is all that we are doing, it's for them. So yeah, it is really great to have them both in the community and to really build the community from the bottom. So yeah, thank you for sharing this experience.
Yeah, we have wonderful points and amazing work from all of you. So let's jump to motivation again, because as Snezhana said, we are having youth here as well. So Ester, can you tell us, how do you motivate students to engage themselves in social entrepreneurship and become innovators or innovate in social entrepreneurship?
So I have two different ways because of two different kind of courses that I have, but one of them is the students that are applying directly to the social entrepreneurship program. So they have already a motivation, and they want to do something. They may not know what they want to do, and so those kind of courses are organized. I actually organize them through a bit like Einstein, you know, the famous Einstein quote: if I had 60 minutes to solve a problem, I'll use the first 55 minutes to understand the problem. So that's exactly how it is. We choose a challenge, and then they organize themselves in groups, and we use much of the part of the course to actually do research on that challenge, do interviews, do field work. If they are working 1 year, they work with the homeless in Copenhagen, in a rich country. Sleep, spend one night sleeping outdoors in a country where it can be -10 degrees, and do it without a credit card and without keys to anything, to actually experience the challenge as the people you want to help experience it. Because it gives you, because of two reasons, it gives you a profound respect for the knowledge that these people have, which pushes students, at least, and also the potential social entrepreneurs to be more democratic, to accept knowledges that are often ignored and that may very well contribute to the solution. So that's one way, I put them in the context that they want to have a solution for. And the other thing that it does is that I found, at least among the students, quite a few that already know the solution, and they don't have a clue, really, about the problem. And I agree with Keith and Alexandra when they say, try it and fail quick, fail forward quick. I do believe in failing forward, but a lot of the failing could have been much more at a higher level if they had first done a lot of investigation and research on the problem that they want to solve or create an innovation for. So fail forward and fast, yes, but base that trying and failing in proper research, in proper understanding of the problem, and not on one's stereotypical often understanding of the problem. So that's that's often how I try to motivate them.
It's an excellent. I think that there was also a show, a similar show, that they're putting students on the street with zero money and without credit cards, and they're telling them, you want to be entrepreneur, find solution how to get your investment for your idea.
Hmm.
So they're going around, of course, investors and local shops and markets, and basically pitching their idea. What is also interesting is to share is that while we were doing that's related to emergency button service, while we were researching the potential and the feasibility, when I was doing the interviews with the elderly people, because it was focused for the elderly, many of my colleagues that are not in the field were saying, do you think that it's a well-spent time interviewing the elderly about this? Maybe their families, maybe something else. And I was like, I was saying, do you know what their stories present? Pure knowledge. Because when you're talking with a person who is 85, 90, he has a whole bunch of experience and knowledge willing to share it with you. And if you're only open to learn it, it will basically give you a hand when it's most needed.
Yeah. So
I think that we should be open to knowledge as well, for us to learn the things that we are talking about here. Let's go to Keith. Keith, can you share some practices related to innovation in social entrepreneurship from Canada?
Now, when you say practices, do you mean in supporting social innovation, like through programs, or do you mean like practices as in industries or sectors or business models? I just want to make sure that I directly answer your question.
Business models. I'm more, we are more focused on business models and how they can be used for future and new and upcoming social entrepreneurs, that they can use them in their own social enterprises.
Yeah, thank you. So in Canada, in social entrepreneurship right now, the industries that I think most social entrepreneurs are focused on would include healthcare, especially mobile health. So in other words, providing healthcare to people in small and remote communities. Second would be education. And again, this would be remote education, right? So again, people in smaller communities, of course, COVID has made that a necessity. In addition to that, circular economy. And so this topic of community currency is a fabulous example of how you can weave in circular economy into a model like that. In addition to that, we are seeing a lot of work around climate and environment. And so the way that we're seeing that happening in Canada is through clean tech and climate tech specifically. In addition to that, we're also seeing a lot of work around what we will call food security. So trying to create a sustainable food system, not only in Canada, but for the world. Canada is in many respects the breadbasket of the world. Like it's, you know, if you look at central Canada, basically, you know, this central Canada, which is probably the size of, I don't know, you know, the Western Balkans times 15, you know, geographically, is basically wheat, you know, like it's, you know, so it's quite big. And so the reason I mention that is because what we're seeing, and this question actually came up in Q&A as it related to the Nordic environment, and the same applies in Canada, which is within the bounds of that, we're seeing first that social entrepreneurs are setting up for-profit, cooperatives, nonprofits, and charities. So we're seeing all four legal structures that are happening. I would say that the more people want to create scale at either a national, regional, or global level, the more you see them pushing into co-ops and into for-profit. So, and just and one of the biggest reasons for that is because in North America, the amount of funding that has been going to nonprofits and charities is decreasing, but the amount of impact capital for for-profits is increasing dramatically. So that's why we're seeing this shift kind of in legal structure. And then under business models, we're definitely seeing a lot of e-commerce, a lot of marketplace. And then within the individual sectors, it will be appropriate to that sector. So for example, in clean tech, you're seeing a lot of business to business, people selling to government, people selling to other businesses. And so we're seeing a lot of those models. When I look at the Western Balkans, there's a few things that I think about. I think Western Balkans is incredibly well positioned to be a potential leader in the food security economy. There's a lot of incredible food entrepreneur and food entrepreneurship opportunities in the region because you deal with limited space, but still need to feed everyone. And that in and of itself, necessity is the mother of invention, is the term, right? And then the second one is, I think there's a huge opportunity around clean tech and climate tech. I think that world is just, I mean, at the very beginnings of being like even, kind of perceived and realized within the region. And I think that has significant potential from my perspective. So these are some of the things that we are seeing in Canada. And what I would say is that globally, in the impact world, clean tech and climate tech is hot. It's popular. It's in vogue, right? Many of us could Google articles about how literally there's trillions of dollars available from Wall Street in New York City to support clean tech and climate tech initiatives. And that's great, but to a point where it's almost overshadowing the other work. And so I think the next big thing is food security, right? Because in 2100, the world will have 11.5 billion people. In order to feed that many people, the food ecosystem will need to increase productivity by 70%, 70% globally, right? So that's a huge opportunity, I think, for social entrepreneurs. The last thing that I would say in Canada, and we've experienced this a little bit in the Balkans too, is that underlying these industries and business models are themes. And in particular, one of them is around equity, diversity, and inclusion. And in particular, one of the driving forces is gender equity. So in other words, creating equitable opportunities for women to be in business, to be in leadership, to be entrepreneurs, and to be investors, right? And so the statistic, depending on what you look at in North America, where again, there's literally tens and hundreds of billions of dollars available for entrepreneurs, less than 10% of that goes to female founders. And yet more than 50% of the founders are female, right? And so that is an underlying piece of social innovation happening in North America, not just Canada, but also the US. You're seeing it happen in other parts of the world. And one example I would give is that you're seeing this movement happening now in the Balkans. So amongst examples, Women's Founder Network Albania last year ran a female founder accelerator in the Western Balkans. It was the first one ever in 2020, right? Now you have two organizations, one based out of Belgrade and another one actually based out of Albania, that are actually collaborating to provide investment readiness training for female founders. So you're seeing Seed Hub Skopje is actually, I think it was about 9 months ago or so, launched a women business club, right? So you're starting to see this movement happening in the region. And I think that that's the other piece that I would share that we're seeing here, and then I'm also seeing there. Yeah.
For sure, in the Western Balkans, there are a lot of development going on, especially in tech. E-commerce is rising very fast. Especially now with all the situation with the pandemic and everything that's going on. But I think that we've probably forgotten where we came from, and like the Western Balkans is starting anew, let's say, although once this whole region was a part of innovation in the world, but now we are just figuring it out right now, because there are a lot of developments going on from different parts in the world, from Scandinavia, from Canada, from US, UK is here as well, because UK, we are having some business models from there. So I think that we can learn many things from each other. So we should keep conversations such as these to show to people and to see how things develop. Thank you, Kit, for that. Alexandra, now we're coming to you again. I just wanted to ask, what is the road to innovation? Because before you answer this question, it's your case is a particular case of entrepreneurship, right? Because you're basically innovating and you're doing social enterprises within an organization. So I don't want to put the entrepreneurship concept out there because it may confuse people, but entrepreneurship is basically social enterprises within an organization. So I just wanted to share with the audience. Can you share with the audience what is the road to innovation and how do you develop this entrepreneurship in the organization?
Yeah, Stefan, you are right here. Since we are developing the social initiatives within our organization, I will share the road within our organization. I believe that we are not similar to every other organization, since as a Red Cross is a part of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent National Society, with this network of 190 national societies in the world. So it is a big advantage to be part of that network because we share a lot of good examples and practices when it comes to innovation, especially in social and health services. And I can say that up until now, the Red Cross of Skopje, as I already mentioned, has developed 4 social enterprises, and 3 of them are inspired by experiences and practices that we have seen during study visits in more developed countries. Of course, that the challenge here is bigger to adapt all these successful stories and practices to our conditions. But I believe that with hard work, motivated team, it can be achieved. Also, as an organization, we follow the global trending in all aspects. We are aware as an organization that all project-oriented activities has to stop at some point, especially when the funding ends. And if they're not sustainable, I think that only the social entrepreneurial model would provide the sustainability of the activities. I can tell this from my own experience throughout the years, how sad it is when a good project ends. I know it because it happens to us a lot of times. And imagine that you've been helping, for example, 100 older individuals for 2 years within project activities. And suddenly the project ends, and you have to tell all these 100 old and frail people that the help stops here because there are no funds. It is sad, and there is no good way in telling somebody that some service, a good service, ended because the project ended because there's no funding anymore. So that is the main reason that we choose innovation in social entrepreneurship to reach and to provide sustainability of the most needed services. To have creative economic activities that solve real problems in order nobody to be left behind.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's a great point because we are all witnesses of good projects coming to an end without proper funding, continuous funding. And we are coming, of course, to the kids' point of necessity. So because you have projects that were finished and there were great projects providing service for some kind of vulnerable group, some type of vulnerable group, you have find a way how to sustain it through social entrepreneurship. So it's innovation itself, right? And Alexander, can you tell us, is there support for innovations in social entrepreneurship in Serbia? How was your path to to your social enterprise and your app?
Fine. Generally, in Serbia, it's a problem because we have not line between the social enterprise and the general business, the general enterprise. So this is sometimes good, sometimes it's bad. But innovations are in the focus of the many public and private funds. We have Fund for Innovation, Fund for Science, which supports some social innovations, but also we have different non-profit funds from the European Union and generally national events such as the Social Impact Award, Forum for National Green Ideas, and something like that. But all applications and all calls for the business and generally assess the impact of innovation on the social economy, on the community, on the environment. So we have some component of social economy in different kind of businesses in Serbia. We started our application with the support of the Track Foundation on their national competition for the green ideas, the green social ideas in Serbia. We got mentorship, we got finance support to develop our MVP, our small testing product to test our taste of what we want to do in the recycling fields. But also after that, we got support and from the regional competition, Balkan Green Ideas, on the whole Balkan. We had the competition from the whole Balkan, but we got award in financial support to develop full application of the city and me. And I believe that especially young people and social businesses need to follow and to participate in these programs for supporting of social economy and general business, because not just for the money and for the investment, because you have opportunity to know better, to meet better with your ideas, to find some problems, to think about some things what you haven't time or you can't see during the development. So generally private funds is better than public funds because they give us more motivation and support to develop our business idea, not just money. And I think that this is the great time to develop ideas and to use all opportunities which we have in our environment for developing of business.
Thank you, Alexander. I think it's a great point that private funds give you freedom to innovate, more freedom to innovate than public funds. Well, in the region, I don't know how it's in Sweden and in Canada, but I don't know. Maybe some of you can Ester, can you tell us how whether in Sweden the investors, basically the social entrepreneurs, whether they prefer private or public funding?
So I have to go back to where I started. You know, social entrepreneurs often may not want private funding because it comes with demands of being profitable and and having dividends or in short time, and they find that it is the market and that kind of business model that has put us in the place where we are. So it's not a matter of what, and also public funding. I mean, just like private funding, each type of funding comes with its own strings, and you are as free or as little free to innovate, no matter what kind of funding it is. So I find that entrepreneurs here and social innovators here start with where they want to go, what kind of change they want to, and then either they organize themselves as kind of gift economies and sharing economies and communities that from the bottom up free their own time and resources, or the more private oriented get a Ashoka kind of funding, and others that are finding, like we did actually, funding from the public sector that is often quite open to innovate and to come with, as long as you focus on a particular target group, they are very often as to how you work with, very open as to how you work with that public group. Mm-hmm. So I think it is important to remember that every kind of funding comes with its own strings. It's not only public, it's also the private. And yeah.
Thank you, Esther, for that. Yeah, sure. Every funding goes with some strings, and you have to know how to navigate that.
Yes, that's a great summary. Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing, maybe I was just going to quickly chime in. I just wanted to add to that, which is that I agree 100%. You have a federal government, you have a city government, you have a foundation, you have an angel investor, you have a venture capital fund, all have pros and cons, all have strings attached. You know what has no strings attached? Revenue from your customer. Right? Wow. Now, this does not apply to every social venture, but to those who do generate income, right? And I think it's always important that you have to say to yourself, how can I control my own destiny? Is there a way for me to generate income or funding or revenue for my organization that actually allows me to go through this process? So one number that I always love to talk about with a social entrepreneur is what we call risk percentage. So in other words, what percentage of your organization's funding or income comes from a single source? And so if you say, oh, 100% of my funding comes from the government of North Macedonia, that's 100% risk, right? If they change their mind tomorrow, you're out, right? And so I always find there's kind of a magic number, and I personally believe that over time, the magic number is 20 to 25%, that the maximum amount of your funding coming from a single source is 25%. And then you seek other sources. And that's the other hidden secret to this strings attached, is if there's only one funder, that's a very big strength, right? But when you have 3 or 4 or 5, or if you can generate income from customers, hundreds or thousands, right? Like the more you spread that around, then more you diversify that risk and increase your ability to be sustainable. So I think first is that honest assessment as a social entrepreneur. Is this something where I require funding all the time, or is there a way for me to generate income? Can I generate income that supports either part or all of my expenses? So having a nice, honest assessment, and the way that Esther was describing her program, like helping people really understand the customer and understand the problem, really helps you to also figure out like, and how can I fund this, right? How can I make money? And so I think from there, you can then say, okay, and now how do I diversify? And I think that's really critical. So back to you, Stefan.
Thank you, Keith. Guys, diversify your portfolio. I don't know if you can hear that. It's diversify your portfolio, basically, so you can have freedom. Because with one investor, you're attached. Thank you, Keith, for that. Snezhana?
Yeah, I think that we came to the end of our conversation today, and I think that we also came to the maybe hardest question. We mentioned a couple of times that we really want to speak with the young people about the social entrepreneurship and innovation, and during the whole this conversation, you have shared a couple of really good messages, all of you, to all the people that are listening now. But we really want to hear at the end of this conversation from you a really message for the new and upcoming entrepreneurs. What would you tell all of you? What would you tell to them? What to try, what to do, what not to do? So maybe, Esther, we can again start with you to share. Yeah, you're maybe mostly used to speak with the young people and encouraging them.
So I would go in the lines of what Alexander was describing that he was doing. Actually, if you have an idea and if you go out and discuss it with other people, discuss it with friends, discuss it with neighbors, discuss it with the target communities that you're addressing, mobilize, meet. That is really the most, because as you discuss it, you realize what you haven't thought yet. You realize how others are perceiving it. You realize the mistakes that you haven't done. It helps you trim the idea, but it helps you mobilize other stakeholders that may be key and pivotal to realizing it. So meet. Go out and expose the idea.
Yeah, great, really. Yeah, the short but great message to all of that. So, Alexandra, can we hear your message for the young people, new and future entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I completely agree here with what Esther said. And I also will add that it might sound like a cliche, but I truly believe in the potential and the strength that every individual can create positive changes, positive social changes. And I think that we should care about our community, because when we care about our community, we move things to the right direction. Since when we care, we get involved, we fund important projects, and we help the community, but at the same time, we help ourselves also. So I think that I would just motivate young entrepreneurs to be those people who change things to better.
Yeah, I think that this is the mission of all four of you, yeah, to make people change their own community and improve their own community. Thank you, Alexander. So, Keith, can we hear your message to the young people?
Yeah, I think I just want to echo what was just shared. I think everyone has an opportunity to create positive change in your community and positive change in the world. And you're seeing it happen every day in the communities that you're in now, and you can do it too. I think I would share some very practical advice. The best habit that you can learn as a potential entrepreneur is asking for help. I think so often we believe as entrepreneurs that we have to have all the answers. I am a 4-time entrepreneur, and I will tell you today, I do not have all the answers. I never have all the answers. But what I have learned over time is to ask for help. So a simple guideline is, if you have a question, if you cannot answer it in 15 minutes or less, ask someone for help. There is probably somewhere between 6 and 16 other entrepreneurs who have asked that exact same question before you. So just ask for help. And so if you want a really cool technique, take a wall in your home or a whiteboard or even a spreadsheet, break it into 3 columns. And across the top, you have 3 questions. How do I? What if? And now what? And those are the only 3 questions that ever happen in entrepreneurship. And the really annoying part is they happen every day. So the important part is every time you have a question, slot it. Is it a how do I question? Is it a what if question? Or is it a now what question? So for example, how do I launch a new business? How do I do customer discovery? How do I raise funding, right? Those, put them in the how do I question. And then now what is, okay, now that I have funding, what do I do with it? Or now that I have launched, what do I do, right? And then what if, of course, is what if I don't raise enough? What if no one likes my idea? What if I can't charge for it, right? So these are the different types of questions. And so my encouragement to everybody is, when you list the questions and you name them, then it's easier to go out and start asking for help. And so my encouragement is just start asking for help from people. You have such an incredible community of people right here on this call. Reach out to us in LinkedIn, reach out to us in Facebook, connect. Social Enterprise Observatory is well connected, not only in the region, but beyond, as you can see with Esther and I. And so my encouragement to you is stay connected, stay close, and just get started, right? Like, let's do this together. The proverb is, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a business. It takes a village to change the world. So let's do it together.
Wow, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think that all of us are at the end of this webinar will write these 3 questions to ask ourselves. Yeah, so till now we have had the meet, change, ask. So Alexander, what will be your message for the upcoming entrepreneur?
I will just add to all participants that they need to work on their own patience, because especially when they work with innovations need time for understanding and acceptance. So entrepreneurs need to work constantly with the community, with the stakeholders, to educate them, to communicate with them, to include them in the whole process, as Ester said today. So give time to your idea and to your stakeholders, to your community, and I am sure that your idea will be successful.
Great. Wow, really great to all of you for all good messages. And I really think that if not now, that maybe in some future, conversations and discussions as this, we are going to encourage and motivate more young people, not just to start a business and to become entrepreneurs, but as we were speaking today, to make some change in their community and make their community better with any kind of initiatives or innovations. So thank you very much to all of you for being with us today, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your expertise. It was really a pleasure to hear all these great initiatives. So I think that this is the 6th webinar, but this is first time that we have someone who is not from the Europe. So now we have from Canada. So who will know for the next one what we will also have opportunity to hear. So thank you. Thank you for being with us today. And we are really looking forward for some new joint initiatives and events.
Thank you for organizing. That's the key.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Fantastic, everyone. Thanks for this. Yeah.
It has been a fantastic experience, and thank you for having the time to be here. I think that the audience as well was very engaged, and as we see in chat and on Facebook as well. Connect, network, collaborate, make partnerships, and of course, if you need any advice, counsel, whatever, you can contact us. When I'm saying us, you can contact all of us here, because we are in the business of advice and counsel and basically social business development. So thank you again to all, and stay in touch, and be open for next webinars as well, because you will get the invite for sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
that was
you.
fantastic.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Have a great evening.
Guys, have a great evening. Bye.